Hey guys, let's talk about this week's episode of The Good Wife. And it was another good episode. I mean, it wasn't as strong as the last two episodes have been, but I mean, come on, those two were phenomenal. But this one was still a good episode, and we got to see Carrie Agos and Alicia Florrick and her team of associates moving into their new building. And it's a bit of a fixer-upper to say the least. But you know what I like? It's kind of like their new law firm, and it's gonna be like a little struggle in the beginning, and it's just gonna get better every day that goes by. And you can already see it by the end of the episode. They're starting to get chairs and they're getting desks, and it's starting to feel like an office. Does it need a lot of work? Absolutely, but I have no doubt that they'll be up and running in a few weeks' time, and it'll be great. So we had the case of the week, and the case of the week was just okay, but it was more about what the case of the week brought. And that brought us Natalie. And Natalie was played by America Ferrera, who had been on the show a couple years ago, and she was very much tied to Eli. And they had a bit of a flirtmance going on. And, when he saw her in this episode, it was super cute because he got all flustered and he couldn't speak. And he was like running after her. He wanted to have a conversation with her, and it was adorable. And then they finally tried to sit down and have some conversation, to kind of get caught up. And she mentions the fact that she's in town also because there's going to be some ethical dinner that, of course, Alicia's husband, Peter's going to be speaking at. And then Eli lets her know that, he's canceled that. It's no longer on the books. And she wonders why. And, of course, he says, well, you never really can make anybody happy with whatever it is I'm going to say. So he doesn't really want to piss anybody off on either side of the aisle, so he's just not going to do it. And you can tell that she's a little disappointed in this. And this, of course, is another situation that involves Marilyn, because Marilyn is part of the ethical committee that Peter has put together, and he wants to make sure that he's not going to be called out on any kind of ethical practices that he's done while in office. So again, we're getting like some blurred lines here because Eli, tries to convince Peter to do the speech after all. And then Peter's like, but why? I thought we said we weren't going to do it. It's too risky. And then he's like, but I think it would be great for your voters. And then he's kind of wondering why. And then, of course, Marilyn brings it up to Peter that, he thinks that this could be a conflict of interest and that, he might be doing things to gain favor with her. And it's not necessarily in Peter's best interest. So, it's again bringing up all this ethical stuff, and which brings us to Marilyn, who I understand her role, but she's driving me bananas every time she's in a scene, and she's like, oh, I feel like I'm gonna throw up, or oh, my stomach, my morning sickness. I'm like, okay, I get it, but can we stop showing women who can't function because they're pregnant or in the early stages of pregnancy, and that they always have to be running to a bathroom or about to throw up? I'm like, okay, enough. And talking about annoying women, that leads me to Isabel. And Isabel is the girl that has been hooking up with Will. And she is driving me bananas, okay? She is just so annoying. And she's like this, I'm like too cool for the establishment. I got my tattoos and I just live by my... And she's making out with Will in the office. I'm like, what is going on? At one point, David is like, do we have a Yoko Ono problem here? I'm like, yeah, you kind of do, because she is annoying. We need to get rid of her and stop making it look like Will is going through a midlife crisis. No, he is standing up for himself. He's not going to be taking any of this lightly. He wants to win every single case he's got. He's trying to go balls to the wall, and I love it. So why are we bringing this girl in as if she's supposed to be some replacement, or she's trying to get his headspace out of Alicia? And I'm just like, it's distracting and it's annoying me, and I'm not liking it. Every time she's in the scene, I'm like rolling my eyes, or I'm like distracted, and I don't like it. So Will is just on fire as always, and I'm really enjoying him. And he actually starts going after Natalie when he finds out that she came to the firm. And then, she didn't really like how she was treated, and then she went to Alicia's firm. So he's trying to woo her back, and so it was kind of like a little bit of a tug of war. But Alicia really didn't even know that there was a bit of a tug of war between Kariagos and Florrick and Will or Lockhart Gardner, or shall I say LG. So, that was kind of interesting that was going on behind the scenes, and Natalie was almost really ready to jump ship and go back to LG because she wasn't satisfied of the way the case was going. So, there was some like great moments in this episode where it was sort of like the tug of war, and you're seeing like where this ethical committee can be headed for Peter, because like, obviously that's going to be a very significant storyline that's going to play going forwards. And then of course we had, the struggles with what's going on in the office. And then we had the lawyer, I believe her name, no, not the lawyer, the investigator, I believe her name is Robin, who had to prove herself in this episode because Carrie and Carrie are talking about having to cut the budget, and they might have to cut somebody, and she was the last one hired, and so she would be the first one to go. So she was kind of like sulking around a bit, and then she had to pull up her big girl boots and start getting to work, and she had to prove, why they really needed her on this, like part of Florrick and Agos associates, and she did. She really proved herself in this episode, and I thought that was great. Now, the one thing I will say is that we're definitely seeing some lack of Kalinda in this fifth season. Last year it was a debacle what they decided to do with her character and her storyline and her horrible ex-husband, but that doesn't mean that we need to put her on the back burner and we can't have her in any of these episodes, because she seems to just come out, trawl out for a few lines, and then we don't see her again. So I'm hoping that they're going to fix that. But other than that, it was a great episode. We didn't really have much of Diane this episode, but that's okay because she's been featured in a lot of the other episodes leading up to this point. But, when it was good to see. And the other thing I'm really liking is that we are totally seeing a transformation of Alicia. She is no longer like the sweet, innocent lawyer. She is like means business. And I like that. You're seeing a change in all of them. And that is great. And they referenced that in last week's episode, when I believe it was Diane said to Alicia, I never thought you would change like this. And she's like, how could I not change when I was taught by the best, which was her, Diane, and Will. And she said, of course I'm going to change. And so I'm glad that we are really seeing this change in Alicia. And I feel like there's a new spark in her, and it's really helping to drive the storyline and the way that, her new firm is going to go forwards. Anyways, guys, this was another good episode. Not the best, but it still had a lot of great momentum, and it's going to push us forwards. And obviously we're going to see where all these new cases are going to take them. All right, guys, that's been my review for The Good Wife. I'll see you guys next week. Bye.